this one.
Whenever the live starts. I've never done it before. I'm not sure.
Wait. Should I title it?
Yes. Artist.
Perfect. R-A-C-H-N-A. It's like Rachel, but N-A instead of E-L. Yep.
And then last name?
Rajan, R-A-J-E-N. That's my real name. Not radar. Monitor. Yeah.
You want to put your mic down a little bit just because it's
How's this?
perfect.
Lovely.
Alright, I'm gonna click it.
Okay.
We are. Oh, it's checking my connection.
We good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Artist Talk here at Atithi Studios. My name is Onyx Green, and today I have the privilege of sitting down to chat with emerging artist Rachna Rajan, whose work is currently featured in the gallery here all around us. Hello, Rachna.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to turn this off. Okay. Got it. I just don't want Siri to like interrupt my talk, but thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, honor, and pleasure. So yeah.
So I'm super excited to get to learn more about you and your work and your journey, all the juicy bits. But first, would you like to just introduce yourself to the audience, tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Rachna, and I'm currently an art therapy student, third year at Seton Hill University. I'm currently doing an internship at a drug and alcohol recovery center. And so art right now to me has definitely changed. It's like at a juncture from personal, experience to something that's more healing and more holistic. So yeah, it's an exciting point in my life where, art is just taking like a deeper turn and helping inform who I am. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So although you are only a few years into your professional career, you have been an artist for the majority of your life.
Yes.
Do you have any early art memories that stick out to you?
Earliest memories are, well, I was born in Kuwait, so my relationship with art, just from that aspect, is really pivotal, just because in Kuwait, an artist wasn't really encouraged. Like, there's no art school. Even in grade school, there is no art class. And so my earliest recollections are my dad helping my mom. She's a teacher now still. And he would draw posters for her and things like that. And I just remember feeling it was magical just watching someone, with a blank piece of paper and then drawing an image. To me at the age of 4 was just truly, that's the only word I can think of, was magic. Just to be able to create something out of nothing. So that made a lasting impact. Like, I still remember it clearly, which is like 30s. Yeah, can't do math right now. Long time ago. 37 years, yes. So yeah, that would be the earliest recollection.
Awesome, thank you. So coming from Kuwait, what brought you to Pittsburgh?
Okay, yeah, that story I do love to tell because everyone's like, wow. But so we decided, my family and I, my parents and my younger sister, decided to come to America for vacation. It was between here and Europe. But we wanted to come here because, us kids wanted to see Walt Disney World a lot. Like, we were obsessed. So, yeah, we decided to come to America and just happened to be out of the country when Kuwait was invaded. I mean, we just count our blessings every day to have not been there. For obvious reasons. But yeah, without getting too much into it, we just happened to be in the Southwest, and my uncle called on the phone and said that Kuwait was invaded. So we had to start the work visa process and the green card process to move here. Pittsburgh became our home because we had the most relatives here, and my parents felt it was the best place just to, bring kids up school-wise and things like that. So yeah, that's the nutshell story.
Super cool. So you did mention that you were pursuing a master's education in art therapy. Could you expand on how and when you discovered the therapeutic potential of art making?
That's a great question. I think all forms of art making are healing just on the basis of that release of energy, When I started to actually embrace art making as a form of therapy was through a lot of losses in my life. And so, namely, without, getting into all the details, like the loss of a few friends, my marriage, I think the divorce is what caused me to go back to school for art therapy, because I actually learned that art was a way for me to create something out of nothing, like when I saw my dad, but now that loss, that void that was left in my life, I literally filled it with art making, like physically, creating something from that loss. So yeah, it's hard to actually verbalize it, but I think you can get the sense of using, it's like alchemy, right? Like making something positive out of a negative situation. So that was the impetus to go back to school for art therapy. But I think currently my field in drug and alcohol treatment, I feel like I fit with that population just because of my past experiences with addiction. I mean, just from in my 20s going to raves and stuff and just kind of in that experimental phase, luckily I never had a major issue, but I could relate to that need to have positive things to fill a painful place, you know what I mean? So I feel like just that the desire to be there to help them, I think they can sense that, and they can tell just from how I talk to them that I get what they're going through, and I truly believe that art is a place, it literally is like a vessel, you know what I mean? It's like a place you can go and it never rejects you, you know what I mean? It's always there. Like, I guess substance abuse, you know what I mean? I think that's part of the reason it's like an attachment, because it's something that's never gonna say no to them, you know what I mean? So, it's just a matter of redirecting, like that, reframing, what are you looking for through the drug use? Like, can you get those same feelings from art? Yeah, so I do strongly believe, I think you can tell because I'm talking so much about it, but yeah, really believe in the healing aspects of art a lot.
That is amazing, and it's awesome to hear that art has been able to have that effect on you. Could you tell us a little bit about the feelings throughout your process? Do you really have a routine, or is it more intuitive? What does it look like when you sit down to create?
I would say the routine, I do think I have a routine because I try to make art as soon as I wake up. I feel like just having the space for it in the day, like as soon as you wake up, you just get the momentum to keep, continuing and maintaining it. So I would say that the routine is just to make space for it. I don't have kids or anything, so I always joke that art is my kid, just because it's like the priority. But yeah, the emotions, I would say, I basically wear my headphones all the time. I mean, some audience can attest to this. I constantly have them on. So I basically tune out, turn on, tune out to the music, and the emotions can range from whatever the music is talking about, you know what I mean? It's very cathartic, yeah. I do use music as a way to get a lot of emotions out and to inspire the art.
Awesome, thank you so much. So music is a part of your visual artistic process, but you also dabble in music yourself. You're a DJ. How do you bridge the gap between visual art and musical art in your practice?
That's a good question. Well, being in school and doing my internship has definitely, that's a priority. So the DJing has taken a backseat a bit. But before the pandemic, I was DJing a lot. Like, people asked me to play at various clubs and stuff like that. So it was a very promising, endeavor. But I think I just got to a place where I had to choose between visual art and music as far as pursuing it, professionally. I guess I never wanted to pursue DJing like to the level it can go, you know what I mean? But I do feel like I want to bridge them somehow with art events and just having music be a prominent part of it. A lot of my friends DJ, so I have them DJ a lot of openings and stuff. Whenever I get a chance to show art, I always make sure the art music part of it is really prominent. But yeah, I think that just the music I listen to, it does reflect itself in the work, like this particular body of work. And some of the repetition lines, the repetitive lines, yeah, I feel like you could kind of sense the rhythm aspect of it, especially with the meditative quality. I think I talk about it in my artist statement a little bit. It is hard to articulate it verbally, like what you're actually trying to say, but I think if you did listen to music that I listen to, you'd be able to grasp that pretty easily. Yeah.
What genres complements your art the best?
Underground electronic dance music. I had to emphasize underground. It makes me sound like a snob, but not the commercial trance stuff. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, darker, industrial. I would say the music I listen to definitely has an edge to it. You know what I mean? I do gravitate towards the darker aspects of music, art. Like H.R. Giger is a huge influence. He did Alien. Just that being able to like delve into it and be able to explore it, but have like can put it away. You know what I mean? It's like it's an outlet so that you're able to explore it, but then able to like detach from it. You know what I mean? Just as a way of cathartic, release.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about your influences. So in your artist statement, you say that your work can be split into two different categories, landscapes and patterns. What draws you to those two subjects above all else?
That's a good question. I think even as a young child, the quotation by John Lennon comes to mind. I think it was "Reality leaves a lot to the imagination," or something to that effect. So I think even as a young child, I created landscapes that were places I would actually like to go live. That were an escape from, I guess, at the age of 9 coming to America, like just I don't know, kids are mean at that age, and yeah, I felt like I was desiring a lot more from life at that point, you know what I mean? So I created the landscapes, and a lot of kids used to make fun of it, like, oh, you're gonna go draw your little cities again, in like a patronizing, derogatory way, but to me, I don't know, I was like, yeah, why aren't you? Like, I don't understand this, So yeah, the landscape to me symbolizes the imagination and wanting to live in your imagination and for that to be acceptable. And then the textile patterns definitely come from my Indian heritage. A lot of saris and things like that are motifs, I think, that are in my subconscious just from being around my mom and looking at her sari collection in her closet. Definitely made an indelible mark. So yeah, I would say that those are the inspirations behind. Yeah, because I do see a distinct like two categories when I look at my art, so that's why probably.
Yeah. When I look at your art, the first word that comes to mind is like a fusion. I see all these different shapes and colors and symbols that identify like different things that pull from like different cultures, different time periods. And it's super interesting and super immersive. Do you leave hints of your personal history in your work with symbolism, color, form, anything really?
I don't intentionally do that, but when I reflect on art I've made, and this ties into the art therapy profession, it's like a lot of clients don't want to plan what they're doing. It's more about how you feel when you're creating it. So I think that I don't approach art in necessarily like a symbolic, metaphorical way. I kind of do the stream of consciousness thing where I like just, I don't know, sometimes I'll close my eyes and something will pop in my head, but usually it's the doodle. I always joke, like I just doodle, but people think that's funny. Like, that's not a doodle, but that's what I've always called it. because it takes the pressure off of it for me, I think. Yeah, I like to just see what happens, kind of thing. It's usually the approach, yeah.
That brings me to my next question. Around us, there are quite a few pieces that are on some very interestingly shaped canvases. There are some hexagons, some triangles. Can you tell us a little bit about what comes first, the artwork or the canvas shape?
It's been the canvas shape because I go to Red Fish Bowl, not so much now because of school, but back when I did go a lot, one of my friends there built a lot of canvases, and he was displaying a lot of triangles, and so I asked him if he could make me a triangle, and then actually my dad started doing it too, so my dad built the hexagon frames, and I think that I really appreciate having other people involved in the art making process, just so it doesn't feel so isolated. But yeah, I think I don't know, I always felt my art was geometric, so it just felt like a natural progression to the canvas shapes.
Yeah, they definitely add to it.
Thank you.
Yes, I love them.
It was fun.
So other than the canvases, can you tell us a little bit about the materials you use and how they lend themselves to the subject matter?
Okay, so I'm just reflecting back on my art making journey, and a lot of it was honestly like ballpoint pen. Like I was one of those artists that go to a restaurant and get the napkin with the ballpoint pen and just like make art with whatever you have is kind of the approach I've always had. Found objects and just kind of like the classism aspect, I guess, is something I've kind of struggled with, just not having much money, so I think just making art however you can was very important to me. Almost like a, I don't know, punk rock kind of approach, you know what I mean? Like just do art on a cardboard or something, you know. Yeah, but I mean, as I progress and get older, I do want to invest more into it, and I understand the value of good materials, but there's a part of me that kind of rebels against a lot of the conventional ways to make art. But yeah, my favorite materials are more accessible, like acrylic, or you know, as opposed to oil. And yeah, I kind of just use the more readily available materials that I can. Yeah.
Nice. So would you describe your work as abstract?
I do, yeah. Some of it has a surreal quality, but overall I do think it's very abstract. I do think it conveys the emotion, though, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to be so abstract that you can't resonate with it. So I think I kind of focus on color a lot, as opposed to shapes and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say abstract's a good word. It's really broad, though. Yeah. But yeah.
So how do you find yourself using color to convey feelings throughout your work?
Yeah, I think that I do lean towards a cooler palette, like blues and yeah, just cool colors. The ones that are bolder definitely, I think, represent like a happier time. Like I made those in the summertime, the neon ones. And so that big one on the end is also like a pastel kind of palette. So yeah, I think that the colors I use do reflect my mood at the time. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the monochromatic one. I do find it appealing to work with monochrome and like shades as opposed to getting a whole color palette in there. I just think that shading brings more attention to the form as opposed to the color scheme. It's hard to explain, but I guess you can kind of get a sense of it in a triangle.
Yeah, that piece is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I keep looking at it as we're talking. I'm like, I'm noticing things I didn't know before. But yeah, that one in particular does have a sci-fi city feeling. But if you were to go to Kuwait or any kind of Middle Eastern city, especially Dubai, I mean, it's getting like out of control. Like it's just insane how they're going with the city making. But I'm relating it. I'm like, okay, I see where it kind of has a stamp in my subconscious, kind of.
Yeah, you can definitely see the architecture in your work does not align with things you would see here in the United States. It's much cooler.
Thank you. That's a great compliment.
So how do you feel about interpreting your work for others with it being so intuitive and abstract?
it is challenging. It's the kind of thing where when you're teaching how to do art, but you've been doing it so for your whole life, it's kind of hard to explain how to do things that are second nature to you. But right now, where I am in internship, it is interesting that I'm going away from, the fine art culture to art as a process, and not worrying about what it's going to look like. That is an interesting shift for me, but it feels very spiritual to me. It's less about me, It's like I'm helping a greater cause here. Whereas when I was younger and more immature, it was like I wanted recognition, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it felt a bit limiting because I kind of, especially with social media, it's like I would want a certain amount of likes, I guess, and where I am now, it's like navigating away from it. So yeah, it's really feels really important that that's my purpose. That's a huge thing to learn about yourself.
Thank you. How do you come up with the titles for your pieces?
I just kind of think about what it makes me think of. I'm trying to think, like multiverse is the title of that, and I think I just thought of the universe. Concepts of parallel dimensions occur a lot to me. Like a lot of celestial terms and metaphysical things usually lead to the title. It is hard. Like this one's entropy, and I'm trying to think of why I thought of that. Structure of entropy. That's like an oxymoron because entropy is chaos, but you can't have structure in it. So I don't know, just kind of like I think of what the first thing that comes to mind is, and then I get the thesaurus, kind of like look up, or even like song titles or book titles, and because a lot of it is sci-fi influence too. Like that's Blade Runner. Like I just took the same title of the movie. I was like, I can't think of anything. Sometimes I get frustrated and just can't think of one. And then I ask my friends, because a lot of them are well-read and stuff. So I get some help sometimes.
Nice. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about structure of entropy, since it is conveniently right next to you?
It feels like a person is like sitting there.
And what the process for that piece specifically kind of looked like?
This piece in particular was inspired by some challenges I was having at my internship site, just because I feel like, I don't know, person of color, just wanting the visibility, not always feeling the accommodations are there. So this is me getting my frustrations out, which I think you can tell by like the hard edges and like the jagged stuff. It was definitely a cathartic piece for me to just channel a lot of the frustrations I was having. But interestingly, the color palette is calming and kind of pleasing, so I think that's interesting. The title entropy is just saying, like, if you were to take a magnifying glass and it would just keep going, basically, like a microcosm. I do like to get like really new age metaphysical with art, just because I feel like there's no limit to it, there's no limit to your imagination. So like the universe, if you think about it, it's ever expanding. So I try to make those correlations in my art. I don't know why I wrote structure. Just because it is very like hard angles. I definitely got into a meditative state with that one in particular.
Thank you. So would you say that's the goal every time you sit down to create, is to also meditate?
I think, I feel that meditation can take many forms. You don't necessarily have to sit like under a tree, cross-legged, whatever. I think that meditation is a state of mind. So the idea of transcending appeals to me. Like trying to focus on humility, and because I know that especially nowadays, like things can get really busy and problems can feel overwhelming, and so I think just trying to transcend, that's a Buddhist concept, like just human suffering, trying to center yourself and remember your place in the universe. So I would say that's a goal when I create, for sure.
So you mentioned that earlier you were making art for exposure, recognition, and you kind of had this shift to the meditative process. What are the benefits you're seeing in other areas of life from making that shift?
I am kind of struggling with it a bit because I think Pittsburgh, for a person of color, a woman, I think I'm very privileged to be where I am, like just to be able to make art. But I do get caught in the whole like, I don't want to say clique, but you know, like there's different groups of artists that one wants to feel accepted by, you know. And so I am at the place of finding that self-love and feeling validated within myself so that I'm not needing to get the approval, you know, from other people. But it's definitely a process. It's always a work in progress, you know. Some days are hard, some days you're feeling really good about it. I just think that an artist wants recognition, not necessarily to be famous, but just for people to acknowledge that what they're doing is important, you know. So I don't think that's gonna go away, but that's not my motivation anymore. My motivation is to share with other people to create a healing place, you know. I do wanna feel less isolated because I think art making can feel pretty isolating sometimes. Just, you know, creating in your studio all day. So yeah, I'd like to balance that out more. But yeah, I would say my motivation right now has definitely shifted from wanting to get lots of likes to just being around people to share. I think because they can feel how much I love it, and I like sharing that, just being able to set out the materials for them. And I don't know, I recently just started like a big mural with art therapy clients, and it was just like out on the floor when they came in, and like all kinds of art supplies and stuff, and they just like acted like little kids. It was great. It was like, wow, you just get to do whatever you want. I don't know, it was nice. It's like, yeah, we're shifting from talking, we're gonna be doing art today, and yeah, it was fun. So yeah, I think I just wanna focus on helping people with art more.
Nice. What is I guess one thing you're very hopeful for in 2023 as an artist?
I'm looking forward to graduating very much. That's first and foremost. And so, as an artist, you know, looking forward to summer and yeah, just getting more involved. Winter always feels like the longest season. And so, yeah, I'm just looking forward to being out and about more and doing more events. Yeah, DJing would be great to do that a little more. Like I said, I haven't really done it since the pandemic, so yeah, the goals are graduate, yeah, get a job, and yeah, just try to utilize the free time in ways that connect me with people.
Nice.
Like that's not social media, like actually in person.
Right. Actual connection. Yes. Is there anything you're apprehensive about for the future?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the what ifs, you know. I do believe that the energy you put out, like the universe will give it back. Like you just have to keep doing your best and hope for the best, you know. But yeah, the normal apprehensions, like not getting a job or, you know, like just, I basically feel like I'm surviving right now. And I think that's the artist struggle. I never really wanted to make money from art though. I just wanted the recognition, but I never wanted to make the art like my main source of income because it takes the spirituality away for me. I mean, I know it's a personal choice for everybody, but I always knew that at a young age that I didn't want to like put that much pressure on it because I just wanted to be fun. It's definitely a passion. It's not like a hobby, which I'm sure you can see it's a passion, but I don't want to like put that much pressure on the money part of it. So yeah, I think that I just want to balance is the word that comes to mind. I just want to balance my life.
What tools or how do you measure your own success as an artist?
I feel that my success comes from being able to execute like the vision that I see in my head. I always want to, I'm only in competition with myself. Like I always want to improve on what I've done before. So I think I just want to yeah, the way I measure success is by comparing who I was a year ago, with the goals I have. I do consider my success like pretty. I don't know. I think that it's not my focus, but I think I've shown a lot. I've had a good number of shows. I definitely don't put my focus on like being a successful artist as much as an art therapist or teacher. Like I think that's more important to me, especially with young kids. Like whoever I've been around and they've seen my art, they can definitely like feel how much I love it, and I feel like I'm inspiring them. So that to me is success. Just being able to convey or influence a person. Yeah.
Do you have any artists that you admire or look to?
Yeah, several. I really admire artists who like work big and they show a lot and they are very disciplined. Yeah, I admire people who are disciplined. It doesn't have to be an artist. That set goals and achieve them and are always progressing and pushing themselves. But yeah, I have a handful of favorite artists just because I resonate with their art. But it's subjective, But yeah, the ones I admire are the ones whose quotations I love a lot. Like Jackson Pollock, who's a very like polarizing. People like either love him or hate him, but his quotations really stick out. Like he said, "I deny the mistake," which always stuck in my head because I've been around people who are like, "I don't know what to draw. What if it sucks? Like, what if I make a mistake?" And it's just like he would help you overcome that frame of thinking. Like, just go with it. Like, whatever you do, at least you're making something. Like, even if it sucks, you're making the time to, that journey inward, I think, is really important. So the artists I admire a lot kind of like, talk about those things that I think about, but they articulate it way better. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're
I want to
welcome.
ask if anybody in the audience has any questions for Rachna.
I have a question.
Sure.
I wonder if do you plan out your layout in advance, or are you, I'm just getting this impression that you're creating and not sure where you're headed,
Yeah. I think that it kind of pops in my head. Like, for example, if I did a large piece, then I'll want to like switch it up and do a hexagon, or you know what I mean, like kind of like balance it out. Like if you do a small piece, maybe do a big one. Yeah, it kind of depends on my mood, I would say.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like I am a temperamental artist. Like sometimes I don't want
individual shapes. Like, did you
Yeah.
go in advance and say, I'm going to start with a circle, and then just build inside, or whatever. Start with the tree and
Yeah.
see what grows out of it.
I think I did that one in particular. I saw it in my head first, so I knew I wanted to start with a circle. That's as far as I got in my head. All I saw was a big circle,
Right.
so I did that. But then after that, it became a stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
It just kind of
moved
happened.
again.
I kind of don't remember
Real
sometimes.
simple.
Like, yeah, it's like a hypnosis. Like, the next day, it's like, oh, that's interesting. I don't remember that. Cool. So, yeah. Does that answer the question?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Follow-up music question. Do you know who Dry Cleaning or Dead, D-E-H-D are?
No.
Okay.
I'm very curious now. I'll have to look it up. What kind of music is it? Like, how would you describe it?
I'd call them like dreary indie punk.
Okay. Sounds up my alley. Yeah. I'm very open-minded, so I'll have to check it out. Thank you.
Dry Cleaning and Dead, D-E-H-D.
Hey, I have a
Interesting.
follow-up question, actually. Do you ever start a piece, stop, and then come back in a whole different mood, or like with a whole new perspective, and then find that piece goes in a different direction?
Yeah, that's happened before. That's why I love paint so much, though. It's so forgiving.
Mhm.
Like, there is no mistake, really, because you can just go over it, But it's happened a few times where I'm like, I just want to go over this, and but usually, I don't know, it just kind of has its own, and it's hard to explain. It has its own, like, mind almost. Like, you're guided by looking at it, but the subconscious is kind of informing what the direction should be, It's not something I really have thought about very much, but I think, I mean, that's why my stuff's mostly abstract though. It's kind of like the inner workings of your mind. It feels like a map of your mind, a lot of my work. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if you could give one piece of advice to a fellow emerging artist, what would it be?
To stay inspired through whichever means that is, music or life events, or just, I don't know. It's something that I believe you should practice, like even when you don't want to make art. I think just using that, it's like working out. It's like just maintaining that creative muscle, like just working on it, I think is important. But yeah, I think just pushing yourself, and there's just no limits really, you know what I mean? You can just create whatever you want. I think that in itself is inspiring. So yeah, I would say to just focus on creating that time to do it, and yeah, stay inspired.
That's very sound advice. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that is all I have for today. Is there
Thank you
anything
very
else
much.
you'd like to let anyone know about your process or your work?
I just really appreciate the format of the artist talk. I really appreciate you guys do that. Because I was saying earlier, the opening, it's like loud usually, and like, there's like, I don't know, there's like a lot of people usually, so I don't know, I just feel like you don't always get that format platform to have that space to talk. And yeah, I touched on it a little bit, but as a minority, it's like giving that space for me to talk. Yeah, it just means a lot. So I just want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you for coming and speaking
You're
about
very
your
welcome.
work. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
So yeah, the website is Rachna Radar. That's my artist name. I picked Radar because it's an acronym. No, it's a palindrome, not an acronym. A palindrome is like same word backwards and forwards, like mom, or yeah. So yeah, Rachna Radar. Yeah, mom, civic is good. But yeah, RachnaRadar.com, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Just search Rachna Radar, and yeah, that's probably the best way to get in touch with me. So, yep.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very
This has
much.
been a very enlightening experience.
Thank you. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I feel like I can just appreciate your work even more now that I know about your journey and your process, and just how it really is like you. Like you
Thank
pour
you.
yourself into this work, and
I do. Like it feels vulnerable, but there's no other way I'd rather do it. But yeah, it's more fulfilling when people resonate, and I get to experience things like this. Yeah, it makes it worth it.
definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming, everyone. I really appreciate it.
And good luck.